Hello, my name is Tammy Hartline, and this is a video for a code review. Take 15 or so. This is for my CS499 capstone course, week 2, milestone 1. And the code review will be for a program that I completed as a final project submission for CS340 client server development, which was completed around 3 months ago. It is for an interactive dashboard that was created using Mongo database, Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter Dash, Jupyter Labs, and a couple of Python scripts for a animal shelter class and some testing. So before I get good and started, I did want to just show the actual functionality of that dashboard. When it was first completed, it was done through a Porto virtual um, virtual desktop and environment. So I'm actually currently installing all the needed elements onto my desktop. I do have the database here and created and set up. But I am having to do a little bit of refreshing my memory on how to integrate the dashboard and pull the location from the right place and keep the security protocols the same. So it's a work in progress, but this is how it currently functions, at least in the virtual environment. So it starts out with the header, and then we've got our logo. We were supposed to include one filter. I went a bit overboard and did 3. I did buttons here, as you can see, for the animal type. I did radio buttons for the rescue type, and then I did a text filter search box for each column that is in the data table so that they could search and find per column what they're hunting for. When the rescue type is selected, the data table collapses to give a better view of the bubble chart and the geolocation mapping. At the bottom, you see breeds with water rescue 608, and what that is it calculates how many dogs have come through the Austin Animal Shelter that are a breed associated with that rescue type. So in the water rescue case, it's, I think, 608. And I do see that I called that size, and I'm not sure why on that, but I think it would need a better name than size, as that's kind of implies that's the size of the dog. Because when you do hover over each data point, it gives you the breed, the age, outcome type. So if it's still in the shelter, if it was adopted, and so on. And then it gives you that size for that um, animal breed rescue type. So, because there are several within the same ones. So all of my filters did work. You could also click here and it would take away um, breeds if they were selected. But there was so many. I think there's probably a more efficient way to do that. Um, but yeah, this was the basic functionality of the dashboard in its current state. So now I'm going to go ahead and just go over the Python files first. So this was created to hold the class of animal shelter using CRUD operations. So create, read, update, delete. and we first needed to initialize our connection to the database so that we could communicate with it and call in the data. Here we have the create one method, which is just to create one new record at a time. And then we have the create many, which is to create more than one record at a time, and it uses the insert functions. On naming conventions, I could have done better as far as using data or datas uh, for those. It could have been create one animal data, create many animal data. I think would have been better than just using data or datas on that. Same thing for query for our read functionality. And this is going to help when we're doing that filter search for one. It's going to query and try and find that filter type. So it could have been read query, I think even would have been better than just query. Categorized results, I think that one's probably good. I do typically comment my code very well, just for later reference. That way I can know what I was thinking or doing in that instance. I find it much more useful if I've included more code comments versus less, even with conventional naming standards being followed. So after we did the read function, I did the update function. And again, we can update many, update one, or if there was nothing there to update, it's going to return that it was empty. And the same with the delete functionality. If multi, delete many, else you're only going to delete the one, or if it's not deleted, parameter is empty. So then I'm going to move on to my testing, and this was just testing the functionality of each item within the animal shelter class. So on this, we first again have to get our variable environments and then instantiate the animal shelter class with the appropriate credentials and collection details. So naming conventions here are good. Comments are good. Format is good and consistent. I think if I do anything well, it is comments, but to the point of where they can get distracting if I do a few too many on occasion. So, but here we are testing our first CRUD acronym for C, so create, and I inserted this data. All was successful. The program did run as I intended it to. I did go a bit overboard with the filters and beyond the course material, which ended up costing me some points for that course, but it was a valuable lesson as far as make sure you do the minimum viable product first and consult with the client before you decide to make any enhancements or improvements on your own. From there, I tested the update and delete methods, and yes, okay, I was looking for the read method. So it looks like I did not do these in order. So while it's structured okay, I would prefer to keep that in order. So that is one thing I could improve is going back and keeping it where create is first. the reading tests are second, the updating tests are third, and then the deleting tests are fourth. So that is one thing I did not notice in the previous 15 takes. So that is the Python version of all of this. And on this, I do want to optimize for my enhancements the queries, as well as if I can't really optimize them, then I want to add some. As far as what that looks like yet, it could be trying to determine how many, like if there is a trend with water rescue dogs being adopted more often than unknown rescue types or something like that. We could add some more advanced querying into this to get more bang for our buck, if you will, with the data. So that is one enhancement that I discussed in my enhancement plan, was optimizing and making some additions to my querying for this project. Also adding a caching mechanism to enhance the speed, really, and the functionality of it overall is another enhancement discussed for the databases and the algorithms and database structures. So now to the software engineering and design portion. Most, well, really all of it is contained within here. And my enhancement plan is to create a live server using Heroku and GitHub, and to then deploy this dashboard to my newly created server by pushing it through GitHub. So, because currently it's only accessible from my device, or technically not even my device yet because I haven't set it up. As you can see, it still shows the Aporto Lab as the host. So that would definitely need to be updated and hosted through the new server and GitHub. But that'll help show my efficiencies with deployment, server configurations, UI design principles, problem solving abilities, and it will very likely require some exploration of some new tools in order to get it completely operational. So aside from that, I always include my name, a title, and a brief description of what the code is for and what the program should do, along with the date and or a version number. Again, very well commented. This is my imports for all of the needed libraries. All of these are used. There are no unused imports or unneeded things in this, at least from there to there. This is the import of my animal shelter class using the Python file. We started out with, because I did not hard code it in the Python file, we needed to add it here, but I did have it at one time to where they could actually log in. It created a login screen where it would ask them for their username and password, which they had to input in order to authenticate their account to have access to the dashboard. I'm actually waiting on my advisor to send me the final version. This was just the one that I could locate on my computer. So again, I think sometimes my comments can actually be a bit distracting. Like this, I don't think is needed. Remove it here. Yeah, I mean, this is just, I think, fluff um, that's not necessary to understand what is going on here. So DF for data frame, I think is perfectly fine to use. Here we pull in the image file for the logo and then encode the image using base 64. Um, Unique animal types. Again, with the data, like I said, I believe I could have done much better with naming conventions on a few of these. Most are good, like animal type, unique animal types. Data table, deletable, selectable, those kind of things I think are perfectly fine. This I don't think is necessary, and it is where I return the whole data table and get a warning about the size. And I had to update the limit to where it would remove that, but um, yeah, it's not needed for testing. I mean, not to do all of it anyways. I could have just done the first 5 or 10 rows and been good. Okay, so here we're going to initialize our count variable and iterate through our rows to count the breeds based off the rescue type. So this is for our rescue type filter. And then we're trying to find if the breeds listed match any that are within that rescue type in our Python module file. So here we're determining the animal type for the other filters. And that for as far as unique animal types, that way it's not repeating. Because I think there was something like farm, dog, cat, of course, birds, and maybe a couple of others. Fish, I think. Uh, but again, selected animal type, button ID, filtered data, rescue filter, columns. I do want to note that I do want to change the COL for collections to collections because I've confused it with columns several times while developing and did not think anything about changing it. So, and here we are populating and updating our bubble chart. So setting up the filters, and then first we made a copy of our data frame so that we're not altering the original. And here's where I need to change this from size to something else. And why I used X and Y. I mean, I know why because it comes out on X and Y, but I think X underscore age upon outcome, Y underscore outcome type would have been a better option there. So, and then this is our geolocation mapping, which we were given most of this. Um, and literally just populated this. However, I do not like that it doesn't really give you the geolocation that is listed per dog, um, or per cat or whatever it is. Instead, it gives you the geolocation of the animal shelter, which I thought was odd. If you're going to have a map, why have it to where it's only locatable or locating one item? So, also, I think there needs to be an addition of a way to terminate the application. Um, I don't think I tested adequately for that either. So that's another uh, thing found in the reviews, is that I could definitely improve on several areas as far as just updating a couple of the names, and then, but really making sure to test adequately for bugs, terminations, figure out why this is not updating, um, just to really enhance and show my skills in the three categories of software engineering and design and algorithms and data structures and databases. Because there was a lot learned, and I figure it will require some follow up. And this can be removed. It was just for testing. Um, but that is basically it. But before I go, I am going to kind of, just to be sure I covered um, my enhancements enough and thoroughly within the context of the code. So what I'll be doing is mainly, I think, the proficiencies, like how it relates to the what I've learned, the proficiencies that I've learned. So for the software design, it's really mainly dealing with development and deployment processes, as well as problem solving skills. And as stuff comes up, and I'm sure it absolutely will, and I struggle with issues from something not making sense, or um, like right now, even with the setup of the database, I'm having issues with. I had set it in one location, then decided no, I wanted to put it here to make it similar to the location it was at in the virtual environment. And now when I go to update it, because I had already set up the username and password, it's telling me I do not have permissions to save. So, so I'm struggling a little bit with that, but I will figure it out. As well as manipulating and managing files with read, write, and transformation of data, um, web development concepts, version control, different coding languages. So all of these will be demonstrated with the enhancements I intend to make on the program within the code. And then the main thing I'm positive of is I will likely add in more queries, but I am going to implement a caching mechanism, um, just to really be able to reuse the computed results and reduce any redundant computations. So this will this will demonstrate my ability to understand algorithm design, modification of algorithms, improving efficiency, and time complexity analysis, performance optimization, and testing and validation, along with the inclusion of security best practices. So that was one thing I did not include as a skill that is definitely in there for this. I'm going to extend the functionality of the databases with the additional queries and optimizing the new ones. Um, I already noticed some, I mentioned earlier that could be included there, especially for the filters. But mainly, I think the biggest change is going to be the inclusion of indexing, um, because that is not something I utilized in my original version, was indexes, and I'm coming to appreciate them more and more. And this will just really just emphasize my ability to do advanced querying and design and implement those queries. And it makes data retrieval a lot faster. Um, but also, with me being a data analysis, having that as my minor, um, I think this is important to include to show my what I've learned throughout the courses as it relates to databases. Okay, and that concludes my code review. Thank you.